This is Shelby Law with the Great Basin Seasonal Outlook for August to November of 2019. First, we'll take a look at the temperature and precipitation trends for the last 30 days. Temperatures have actually been cooler than normal across much of the geographic area, especially western Idaho and most of Nevada. Utah was closer to average, but still slightly below average in some areas. For precipitation, the last 30 days have been pretty dry across portions of western and southern Nevada, and then up into western Idaho as well. The monsoon was very delayed this year and really only started about the middle of July, and so we haven't had a lot of days of precipitation over the last month or so. Here we're just looking at the water year percent of average precip. Here we're looking at the soil moisture anomalies across the country. We still have quite a bit of moisture in the soil, especially over portions of western and central Utah, and then across portions of Nevada as well. This has contributed to some of the longer drying that we've seen in our vegetation, especially sagebrush, and some of our grasses have taken longer than normal to cure out. Certainly that's due in part to these higher soil moistures. Across Idaho, however, especially over the central Idaho mountains, soil moistures are below average for the time of year, and we have seen some large fire activity up in that area. Drought conditions are shown here. The current drought monitor shows a few areas of abnormally dry conditions over the higher elevations of Utah, and just a small area in the central Idaho mountains. Otherwise, across the area, we're pretty much drought-free at the moment, and the outlook remains pretty good for the Great Basin. Not really looking for any major changes in the next couple of months to the drought conditions. We'll look at our calculated dead fuel moisture values here. First, the 10-hour fuel moistures are lowest over northern and western Nevada and up into southwest Idaho. This is where we haven't seen much precipitation at all in the last couple of weeks, where the deeper moisture has been mainly limited to Utah and up into Idaho and eastern Nevada even to some extent. The 100-hour fuels also aren't terribly low for most of the geographic area, but we're seeing some drier areas there over northern Nevada and then southern Nevada, with those values coming in less than 5% there. And then the 1,000 hours are also not super critical across much of the geographic area. Really just have one little area there in southern Nevada where they're below 5%. ERCs we'll look at here, another indicator of current fire danger conditions. Most of the ERCs across the geographic area are below normal for the time of year, which is something we haven't seen for quite a while. Those values just haven't been able to reach normal or peak above normal really much at all this year, and that's due to those drier condition or the cooler conditions that we've experienced for most of the summer. And then really not seeing our soils dry out and not having the relative humidities get really low for weeks on end. So we're seeing those values creeping up to near normal, but not quite there yet. Sagebrush live fuel moistures are shown here for a couple of sites across the geographic area. Again, we've seen a delayed drying of our sagebrush fuel moistures in many areas this year by about 2 to 4 weeks, where the sagebrush has just held on to its moisture and dried out more slowly. We are reaching those values right now where we expect sagebrush to contribute to the fire growth across the landscape and contribute as a burning fuel. So we expect when we have fires in the sagebrush that they would contribute to that growth. This is a new product that we're just sharing. It's kind of an experimental product out of the fire lab. We're looking at annual herbaceous values. So the image on the bottom right is showing the percent of average in our annual grass load based off of a 15-year average. So all of the areas in that darker green are experiencing, according to this model, experiencing a far above average or greater than 50% above average annual grass loading. And so the image on the top left is showing the modeled amounts in pounds per acre Of course, this is just a model, but what we want to draw your attention to is even though over southern Nevada the values are far above average, we need to remember that normally they don't have much grass at all down there, so above average is still not that much. Still only looking at, in this model, 0 to 2 pounds per acre. But elsewhere, where we do normally have higher amounts, like in western Utah and up into southern Idaho and northwest Nevada, those values are above average for this year, and that is definitely significant. We are seeing that being true in a lot of the sampled values, the fuel loading samples that a lot of the BLM units do are coming in above normal this year compared to average. So something that hopefully we'll be able to use in the future. Okay, so what are we looking at for the rest of the summer? The outlook for 8 to 14 days from the Climate Prediction Center is calling for below normal temperatures across much of the geographic area. And we're actually looking for the monsoon to kind of shut down across Utah and Nevada by the middle of the month. But maybe we'll see some moisture return to Idaho and the northern Rockies there. So we could see some fire activity maybe pick up across the south if this dry pattern persists. How about El Nino or La Nina? Well, we've been in an El Nino for most of this year, and it looks like the models are forecasting us to stay in that condition where we're seeing warmer than average sea surface temperatures. The more extended outlooks for the month of August, these were just published yesterday, calling for above normal temperatures across the Pacific Northwest, near average for Utah and Nevada, and then above normal chances for precipitation, mainly centered over the Rocky Mountain region, but we should see some of those effects in the Great Basin for the month of August. It does look like we're going to be on the fringe of that moisture, and so some drier air will likely continue to persist over western Nevada for the month of August. Then the longer term outlook for August through October is calling for a return of heat for much of the western U.S. And we see the bullseye of above normal precipitation over the northern Rockies there. So equal chances for the Great Basin means we'll probably be expecting somewhat near normal precipitation trends as we head into the fall. So let's look at our outlook products. For August, we're highlighting northwest Nevada as being having above normal potential for large fires. This is due to the fact that it's been dry, persistently dry in western Nevada through the summer months, and we don't expect that to change much in August. Sagebrush values have been coming down over there, and we do have higher than normal fuel loadings in northwest and western Nevada, which could contribute to large fire growth going into August and into the fall. So we still have the same area highlighted for September for the same reasons. Dry conditions will persist in western Nevada, and we do have the heavier fuel loading there. By the time we reach October and November, we return all of our areas to normal fire potential, which for October and November is usually fairly light, except in some of those areas that have the grasses and may pick up a fire ahead of a cold frontal passage with those strong winds or something like that and burn for a burn period or so. That's always possible in October and November, but overall large fire potential should return to normal, which is fairly low for October and November. The outlooks for the entire nation are shown here. For August, we'll see a lot more red on the map for the Pacific Northwest and California. Alaska is still expecting above normal temperature, above normal fire potential into August. Rocky Mountain region is expecting below normal large fire potential. And then that much of that potential will continue into September for the Northwest, California, and the Western Great Basin, really until we get any good cold early fall storms move through and bring things down, especially across the Northwest. In October, it looks like California stays in the game with some above normal potential there. And by November, just looking for Southern California and Hawaii to have that above normal fire potential, and some below normal potential across the southern area there. And this concludes this month's fire potential outlook. We will update this again on September 1st. Thanks.